I will say it was a wild, wild ride. I have so many thoughts and I have no thoughts at the same time. Does that make sense? Hi, everyone. We are back. I'm Jenn from the KThree. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are here for our final installment of Rewatch While You Were Sleeping, episodes 13 to the finale, 16. I have a lot of thoughts. I realize that many of my theories were incorrect. But before we dive in and hear all that I have to say about this drama, let's meet my favorite two people to talk about all these old shows with, Michaela and Caitlin. You guys, how are you guys doing today?
I'm done. I am so excited to be done. We laughed, we cried, we dreamed. It was in a very emotional few weeks reliving the trauma that was this show. But I'm excited to get to talk about it with you guys today.
Excellent, as am I. And Caitlin, real quick, say hello to our friends out there in the world.
Hello. I'm also glad I'm done with the show. I still liked it, but I definitely I looked at my drama list on what my rating was of this drama when I was watching it as it aired, and it was a 10 out of 10.
What?
And I dropped it after the rewatch because I was like, yeah, it's not a 10 out of 10 anymore because I had qualms with this show. Minor ones, very minor ones. I still love it, but it definitely dropped my rating.
Caitlin, we need to talk. How was this drama a 10 out of 10 in anybody's universe?
I don't know. In 2017, I was a completely different person, okay?
Clearly.
I hadn't watched dramas in 3 years, and this was like the first one I'd watched. It was, yeah.
I'll give that to you. All right, you guys. So before I go on, what I am very worried is just going to be a quibble-filled rant. I would like to hear from you two after your rewatch what it was like. Caitlin, you gave it a 10 when you first watched it. What was it that was different this time? Did you still enjoy? What kind of were the things that didn't quite work for you? And Michaela, I want to hear the same thing from you. So let's start with Caitlin, just because the 10 is blowing my mind right now.
I mean,
oh my God.
I think I mentioned this in the last episode too. Like, the comedy just was not for me. Like, I don't understand why it was a 10 out of 10 because that comedy it was too slapsticky, and that's just not my type of humor. I still am not here for the romance. I was never here for the romance though. So that's a thing. There was a couple things in the last couple episodes where it didn't quite make sense, like connect for me. And I'm like, I don't remember being this what during an episode. And now that I rewatched it, especially in the last 4 episodes, I was like, wow, there are some writing flaws in this, especially last case. So yeah, I definitely noticed more things in the last 4 episodes than I probably did, or overall actually, in this rewatch than I did in my 10 out of 10 original rating. I think it's because I was just so glad to be back to be watching dramas that I just kind of overlooked things when I don't know.
I totally get that, because it wasn't like each of the characters were appealing in their own way. So if you'd been away for a long time and you came back and this was your gateway back, I can see you just being like, it's so good to be back and they're so fun and they're so, I can see that. But 10 out of 10. Wow.
It is not a 10 out of 10 anymore.
And Michaela. All right. So you've come back to it. You've rewatched it. You were a big team romance. How did you feel? Is it wrapped up again on this rewatch? Where were you at the end of this one?
Jen, again, I am the opposite of the consensus here. I am a 10 out of 10 on this show. I love that it didn't make sense. I loved the slapstick. I was here for the romance. I was here for all of it. I feel like kind of similar to Caitlin in this sense, where I wish I could go back and give it a 10 out of 10 rating back when I first watched it, because I do think I had been watching Kdramas at the time, so it wasn't like I had this big break, but I still remember enjoying it when I first watched it. But coming back to it now, this many years later, it was, all the feelings that I had when I first started watching K-dramas that I loved about K-dramas as compared to other shows. I feel like so many of the K-dramas, especially the ones that I'm watching right now, they take themselves so seriously. And so it was so refreshing to come back to a show that was just fun for fun's sake, but also wasn't afraid to rip your heart out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did not go easy on us in those last 4 episodes at all. No.
Yeah, so that again, a 10 out of 10 would recommend 100%. I love this show. Even the ending, the music. We talked about the music being perfect. I know compared to like when we talked about Happiness, how it was very cohesive and had different things. Even though this OST was a little bit more like, you know, each singer got their own song. Each moment that made each moment so much more special because each song was unique in their own way. Like when Suzy's OST comes in, when Henry's OST comes in, JONG SUK has an OST on this in this drama. So just having each little moment have its own song was also something that I remember when I first watched K-dramas. Like that was something that I thought was unique about it that was in the shows that I was watching before.
Okay, so it's a 10 out of 10 again. It's a definite recommend and a definite rewatch for you. Caitlin, I believe you came in at about a 9 this time?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would also recommend it. I don't think I would rewatch it. I rewatch scenes, but like not the entire thing.
Yeah, that was not my experience, y'all. Not at all.
I know, and this is very exciting because now we're finally at the end, Jen. We get to hear your final cohesive thoughts over everything after the 4 weeks.
Yes.
I will say it was a wild, wild ride. I have so many thoughts and I have no thoughts at the same time. Does that make sense? I thought, again, as I said to Caitlin, the characters were fun. I liked the characters. I have got to a point towards the end where in no universe did I ever believe that Suzy was a hard-hitting journalist at all. Ever.
Really? Not even a little bit?
Not even a skosh.
Oh, okay.
When she was sitting in Trash Lawyer's office trying to have this very, very pointed conversation, I'm like, I feel like I am watching a high school play. Like, what is happening right now? Like, she's adorable, and I get it.
Right.
But in no universe do I believe that she is going hard for the, did you? I was like, no, I can't. I'm just
He does look young in this drama. I think it's, for me, I agree with Jen on that because she looks really young in this drama. Like if she looked, for example, like if she looked like how she looked in Duna and in this drama, I think it would have been more believable that she was a professional. Because like in this drama and for me, she kind of looks like a college student. I think she just looks young. She just looks too young to be
she
a
just
professional.
looks too young to be this hardened investigative journalist who has seen some shit.
Right.
And I was like, who is giving her this assignment? This assignment is not going to this young rookie journalist.
And that's something that came up in interviews. Like her look in this drama is very young. The fact that Suzy, the everybody's girlfriend crush, cut her hair and she has very short hair in this drama was very significant at the time, especially since she was an idol. And women having short hair is like such a rarity because long hair is the gorgeous, glamorous thing to have.
I remember when the negotiation, all the press for all that came out, and the thing that just boggled my mind because it was right when I kind of newly got into everything, and Young Ben kept saying it was so brave of Sun Ye Jin to cut her hair. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm sorry, what? She was, and then I realized the cultural significance of it. I'm like, whoa. And so yes, I did recognize that about Suzy, that her cutting her hair short was a big deal. And I actually did understand that the short hair meant that she was being serious, I think is what it meant. Like she was taking the role seriously and she was, trying to play a different character, and totally got it. I just had my suspension of disbelief kind of petered out towards the end. I would say my biggest quibble, to be honest, overall, is I felt like the last 4 episodes, they just ran out of story and they just didn't know where to take it. Like it was a lot of filler. Like I have no earthly idea why they suddenly added this new random bad person, like for an episode and a half to just get thrown off the roof of a building. And I'm like, who? What? And they kept them shrouded in mystery for like half an episode only to be someone we'd never met before. Like, I'm like, why is this happening in the last 4 episodes? Like, this makes no sense structurally from a story standpoint. Like, there's no point for this. So I was really frustrated with that. I was mad at myself for not guessing that Kim Won Hae was our cop guy.
Yeah, our Ajishi.
Yeah. I mean, by the time it was revealed, I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. But again, I was like, oh, okay. But they teed up so many other people that could have possibly been connected to it that I was just like, and none of it paid off. For me, there was absolutely no payoff at all. And so I was really frustrated. I mean, Jung Hae In's colorblindness was like the big episode 15 cliffhanger. I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what is happening? They get your violin started in really strong there at the end. And I was like, this is really dramatic. And then I thought, again, going back to how frustrating all of the lawyering and legaling had been through the whole thing, I'm like, you don't tell someone, A, who's your buddy, and B, the prosecutor of this case. I just the story at the end there, like, what was Jung Hae In's character, what was Woo-tak thinking? He is going to drop this huge fucking bomb in the middle of this prosecution case. You don't go to your buddy / prosecutor of the case and go, hey, dude, so here's a problem we've got with these umbrellas. I have color blindness. I'm going to reveal it because I'm going to give up my career because I want to help you win this case. But just to give you a little bit of time to maybe mitigate this entire implosion that's about to happen, heads up. No. He does it in the middle of the courtroom.
And that's the thing with the show, Jen, is like you can't take the legal stuff too seriously. If our conversation from last week when we were like debating whether the autopsy would have helped them in the whatever, like the legal stuff is just the vehicle for us to see their interpersonal relationships. Like Jung Hae In's colorblindness and the revealing of the colorblindness in the case isn't for the legal, it's not important to the case. It's important for us to see Jung Hae In willing to sacrifice his career and not willing to lie, which is what Suzy asks him to do. Suzy's character is like, no, you can't let people know. And he's like, no, I am a righteous person. I'm going to do this, even though I know, 1, it's going to ruin my career, and 2, I'm going to do this even in a scenario which I know my friend is probably going to be negatively affected by it because my colorblindness might help not like ruin his case or whatever. But because I am the righteous person, I'm the cop. This is what I have to do.
I mean, not to push back on a show that you loved, but
no, go ahead. It's okay.
Could he not have done that and still given his buddy a heads up that I'm about to blow up your case? Couldn't he have resigned before he came to court, knowing full well that he was going to reveal this and had already resigned? I feel like there's just so many places in the story that it would have made more sense. Doing it in the middle of court where the defense can actually see you imploding the case just seems like a bad way to win if you want to be helpful. Righteous or not. And I appreciated his righteousness. I will take it a step further. I was really disappointed. I wrote it in my notes 3 times. I'm like, oh, he's totally going to become his inspector now. He's totally going to be the inspector now. They made him a lawyer. Why? I think, okay, great. Okay. I don't know why. Why is he a lawyer? He's a cop.
He couldn't become an inspector.
Why not?
Because of his colorblindness.
Why can't you be an inspector? You're not a cop.
You're still investigating cases. You would have been taken in the court and testimony, and your testimony would have been thrown out if you were colorblind. It's the same as a cop. That's why Kim Won Hae was an ex-cop and being an investigator. Even as like a private eye, it's even hard for him to become a private eye because, again, he's going to have to give testimony in court, and people will be like, you're colorblind. How could you do this?
I feel like there's other things you can see other than colors. Therefore, you have details that should not dismiss you from being able to investigate things. I think that's a really harsh rule.
True. Yeah. I mean, he proved that in court too. Like he proved other ways to identify it, but
all right. Mm-hmm. All right. I lose that one, but I will still say I thought his ending was really anticlimactic. I just didn't understand what the last 4 episodes were. What was the whole point of them?
Suzy's character also thought it was dumb because that was my favorite hashtag acting moment for her. Was like he starts to like reveal that he has colorblindness, and you literally see her face palm in the background. It was so funny. It took me right out of the scene. People need to go back and just watch her do that because it's like, yes, everything that's going on is so dumb.
It's so dumb. So dumb. And then the violins kick in. Like, this is the most dramatic thing that could ever happen. I'm like, what? This is the end of 15. I don't understand what's happening right now. I mean, maybe Kim Won-hae getting hit by a car should have been a good ending for 15. I mean, I feel like there were many other places you could have ended 15 on a much more dramatic note.
Now, that is the one thing I actually remember on my first watch. And I think I missed it again. Like I didn't understand why Kim Won-hae had to be hit by a car.
Well, that I will take it a step further.
Like first and the second time. Like I was like, that was the one thing I was like, really?
Like, was Trash Lawyer just so enraged or so mad at himself that he just thought, hey, I'm going to get away with murder over in court, so I'm going to actually kill somebody so I actually do go to jail. Like, I was very hazy on what motivation he had for running someone over with his vehicle in front of the actual prosecutors, like the chambers. I was like, what's happening?
You can't have nice things with this show. But of course, right when we have this big reunion and they all recognize who each other is.
True.
They're gonna rip it right off from us. It's just the formula. You have this lovely moment and then followed by the most tragic, sobbing, like genuine, like Jung Suk in that moment when he's cradling him with he very ugly crying. So it's real.
And the longest ugly cry, I had to fast forward. It was like too long. I was like, we got to wrap this up, buddy.
The sobbing, the barely getting through words. It's again, it's just the balance that this show has.
Balance? I need more balance.
Not necessarily the balance, I guess, but like the formula of how the show is going to go. And then also he kind of like he fulfilled his job. Like he as in like he was there for Jung Suk's character and Suzy's character. He saved them. Like in whatever, faith path they're on, there wasn't really much like for him to do after that, I guess. I don't know.
Right. No, I mean, I understood it thematically. Like we all knew he was going to die, right? We all knew, like from the moment we did the flashback where he was sitting as the young version of himself and he sat up in bed and he's like, I've got something to do much later than now. And I was like, oh, he's so dead. So
right.
Dead.
Yeah.
But I just was like, it just seemed like, I mean, Lee Sung-yeop's character was like, I hate you. You're so mean to me. And I jump in my car and gonna run you over. I was like, what is this? Caitlin, what's your theory?
So my theory is bad. It makes no sense because, like, as you just said, he's angry at the fact that the investigator's not on his side. And like the investigator left the office, joined him as like his investigator. And so he assumed that he was going to be on his side. And then obviously he loses the case. He now knows he's going to go to prison, whatever, or at least lose his license at the very least. And then Kim Won-hae goes on like, I can't work for you. I'm done, blah, blah, blah. So I think my theory was it's a mix of two things. One, as Jenn said, like he just was really, really angry at the moment and just like couldn't think of another way to take out his rage except drive really fast around in the parking lot. On the other hand, too, like a little bit is he was sort of suicidal because he couldn't face going to jail and losing the prestige and what he gained from being a corrupt lawyer. So that's my theory, like a mix of those two. Because the suicide sort of doesn't make sense with his personality. Like his arrogant personality would not be suicidal except if he was facing down the fact that he just lost everything and his ego can't take it. Like that's my only theory is like it was a mix between like instant rage and seeing white, and that was his split second decision, and suicidal because he couldn't face the future that he was going to have. But the thing with the suicidal theory though is there was no way he was going to die in that scenario. That's the thing. Like that's why it doesn't make sense.
I feel like the way the script was written, it probably was a suicide attempt because it still makes no sense. And it's perfectly in the way the script was written.
And then the fact that he murders at the end really just solidifies him as the bad guy, really. Because he has that whole monologue when he's getting interrogated about, like, oh, you've all messed up in cases. I messed up in this case. We've all messed up. But I'm like, yeah, but we haven't murdered anybody.
Exactly. I was like,
you physically murdered somebody. Like, you are the bad guy. Like, you've been projecting that you weren't the whole time and seeing yourself as greater than all these evil people that you've been working with as an attorney. But you're not. That's who you are, dude.
And so I think that's one of my biggest disappointments is that his character there was so much there that they could have made him one of the greatest villains, like, in all of K-drama land. Like, they really could have. But they kind of just gave us like this weird surface version of what it could be. Because when you're that narcissistic where you believe that everybody makes mistakes and faking the case, right? So he was planting evidence. That was me just making a mistake. It was a mistake, right? Like, that is like certifiable. Like, I feel like if that was going to be the big final case and that was going to be our big final thing, right? Like, the amount of just narcissistic like madness that we could have seen for 16 episodes to get us there, you wouldn't even have needed the woman, the magical mystery murderer that shows up. You just needed him to have falsified documents and falsified evidence. That would have been enough. But I felt like they just kind of ran out of where they needed to go to get to, like, I felt like the wheels really fell off the cart for me at those last 4 episodes.
I feel like her character was necessary to push him to that extent, because until he interacts with her, all these other criminals he is able to feel some kind of superiority over. But she's the one that really breaks him down and makes him nervous and makes him confront all the things that he's actually done in the past.
True.
I will agree with you on that. Absolutely. I think then they needed to move that reveal much earlier, because she was only there for a split second and then he throws her off a building and you're just like, oh, okay.
Or just make it a thorough line through the entire, like, introduce her early, make both of them the big bads, and kind of like work together, and then he throws her off the building at the end, and he's the only one that exists at the end.
Right. Like, I feel like there was they tried to make it such a big case, but it really wasn't, because they'd done, which was great while you're watching, like each 2 episodes kind of had its own case, and I appreciated that. But when we got to the final one, it just wasn't as cohesive as all the other ones to me. And so I feel like if you're going to have this huge case where it kind of unravels our big bad, basically, I feel like it should have been kind of sprinkled out throughout the whole series. And I
think they sprinkled out the fact that he was going to be one of the big bads at the end.
Yes.
But I agree, Jen. I think they should have done the same with her, because like we had that storyline where like all of the older prosecutors freaked out when they're like, oh my God, she's back. The serial killer is back. We haven't seen her in so many years. Like, that would have been a nice storyline to sprinkle throughout and have these serial killer cases.
Yes. Just popping up, right?
Which happens all the time in crime dramas before.
Of course.
So yeah, I agree with you, Jen. I think it would have been fun and not necessarily solve anything yet.
No, God, no. I'm not saying that. She just appeared. She just was created out of whole cloth in episode, like, what, 14? I was just like, who? Yeah. What? They were like mysteriously covering her, like we were supposed to know who she was. And I was like, what is happening? Like, did they tell me about you, like, in earlier episodes? Like, I'm so confused.
Right.
JONG HAE IN looked really good, though.
He went viral for his uniform look in this drama.
Well, I mean, as well he should. He looks really good in his, and I will say the look I liked the most was his scruffy look when they came and like barged in on him with all the banchan. I was just like I literally forgot about that one. Hello, JONG HAE IN. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and then for him, like my last like favorite JONG HAE IN JONG SUK moment was that conversation in episode 15 where where Suzy doesn't recognize her shadow in the photo, and JONG SUK calls her out on it in front of JUNG HAE IN, and they have that kind of like that thing where it's like the second male lead and the first male lead are like acknowledging the fact that they are in this love triangle.
Right.
But
yeah.
They have that kind of like understanding, and then like we're still bros, right? Which I feel like is a conversation I had seen in other K-dramas. Like you never really have that moment. It's usually like a fight. It's usually much more confrontational. But this is more like JUNG HAE IN's just happy to be involved.
Or usually there's a big fight and you'll have like JUNG HAE IN like looking from around the corner wistfully at the two of them and smile a little bit and walk off knowing that all will be well.
And plotting the downfall of their relationship somehow.
I will say this. I think one of the things that for me, I didn't hate it. I would never rewatch it. Things that I really enjoyed, which was like the threesome and like using their dream like bat powers. Like I wanted more of that. Like if we're going to have it, like let's do it. Like, ooh. I felt like we could have I would have liked them more as a trio. That would have been fun. I didn't like the final thing, but there were things that I liked independently of the entire story. The writing was really bad for me. Like I had a really hard time suspending my disbelief with a lot of the script. I was just like, what in the hell is this story? And a lot of it had to do with like just the legal of it all. Like I'm like, no one is getting away with this. Like what is like, I'm not even a lawyer and I know that this is illegal. Like what is happening right now? So that I just had a really hard time with that, obviously.
There's a problem. We've had too many good examples of good cop and legal dramas that this
Maybe
just pales in comparison.
Maybe that's what it is.
Right.
One of my first dramas was Secret Forest /
Stranger.
I mean, listen, one of the greatest crime dramas of all time. And so to now watch this, I'm like, this is so painful. Like, what's happening right now? They do know will.
But look how far we've come, Jen. Look how far we've come.
Jen, what did you think of our coworkers at the end? Because you were in last week, you were like, what is going on with this boy? Like, what secret does he have?
Well, I mean, clearly they started dating once he learned about her son because he didn't know about the son when he went to the hospital. So it wasn't like they were together prior. I mean, they teased it throughout the whole thing. And like, he was like, I love you. And oh, I wish I was on this with you. And I'm like, so clearly they're trying to make us all guess whether it's the younger prosecutor or the older one. And I was like, based on his reaction to the son, I knew it had to be the mom prosecutor. So yeah, he's hilarious. I like him a lot. He's really fun. I mean, that is a man who's just like, I'll do it. Yeah. Are you kidding? I'll go there.
His physical comedy throughout the whole show has been spot. Like I love where he's like, he closes the door and he's like, I'm going to go on a date. And he just like Mario hops down the hallway.
And then he like stops in case someone's looking at him and then he's like, oh, fuck it. And then he does it again because he's so happy he has a date. I was like, yeah. So, I mean, he was probably at the end of the day, him and Prosecutor Shin were my favorite. I actually really liked the lawyers in general. Like they were terrible lawyers. I mean, they were tragically bad, but I enjoyed them as a unit because usually it's always like the head lawyer, chewing out all the other lawyers, and then he's corrupt, and then they all go out. Like I felt like it was just a nice like found family group. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. I enjoyed our breakfast crew, our breakfast club, sort of. It made no sense to me, but I enjoyed them all sitting around the table analyzing dreams together because we all have the same exact breakfast time. Of course we do. We all have that time in the morning. It doesn't matter if you're a cop or a prosecutor or a
high school student,
hard-hitting journalist. We all have breakfast at the same time. I mean, it was weird, but I enjoyed them. I'm glad mom came around at the end, obviously. I mean, there were parts of it that were really, really enjoyable. It was not cohesive for me. Honestly, this would have been a drama that I would have dropped at like episode 14.
Right.
Oh, okay.
14 is deeper than I thought, though, Jen. I thought for sure you were going to say like 3.
No, I mean, listen, the first 4, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. The second 4 were, I think, a bit of a struggle for me. The third 4, like the ones we just talked about last week, those were probably the best 4. And I think you guys said that those were your 4 favorites as well.
Really? Those were your 4 with the amount of legal arguments we
It was
had
terrible.
in that
It was awful, but at least they were cohesive, right? At least the story itself was cohesive. The lawyering was atrociously bad, but the story itself was cohesive. Like I knew where we were going. Like we all started here and then we ended up here. And we all work together to get from point A to point B. then we started episode 13, and it was like, we're on the beach, and suddenly we want to meet the man we saved 13 years ago. And we're going to spend 10 minutes doing flashbacks of stuff that we've already seen.
In case you forgot, technically this is like how many weeks after though, Jen? Like,
I know, but
we're
I was
binging
just like,
it now, but
True.
at the time.
And also, this was 32 episodes when it aired. It wasn't 16.
I know, but I still was like, do we need to cover this for 10 minutes? Like, if I literally checked by the time we got off the beach and we decided to go find the man that they had saved, we were 25 minutes into episode 13. I was like, show, what is happening? Like, what is happening right now? And I'm like, this I do not have high hopes for these 4 episodes. I'm sorry to everyone out there. I apologize. I know this is on so many people's best lists, and I wanted to love it. I loved many things about it. Kim Won-hae, one of my favorite performances he's ever given, to be perfectly honest. I thought he was very dialed in. I thought he was very, he was fun. He was his funny that I like, but he wasn't over the top. I thought he was he was just Kim Won-hae, and I loved him. Park Jin-joo is always one of my favorites, and she's so over the top, but always is over the top, but in a believable way that I'm like, she's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's like that wacky friend you have at work where you're just like, oh my God, but you love being around her. Like, she's one of my favorites. There was a lot of things I really enjoyed. It did not stitch together well for me. To be honest, I mean, listen, I can rant and rave and quibble and the whole thing about what I don't like about dramas, but in a regular world, I would have just tapped out. Like, I don't need to bash on your favorite drama. Like, that's just mean. Like, if it's your favorite drama, it's your favorite drama. Are you kidding? Some of the shit that I've sat through that I'm like, I love this. And people are like, you're on crack. And I'm like, I know. But my favorite actor was in it. So I was willing to forego so many things that was happening in this drama because I got to watch this person or that person for 16 episodes. So I'm just saying this is why it didn't work for me. And maybe those of you out there listening, it didn't work for you and you now have some solidarity in that. But I totally understand why people love this drama. Absolutely. Well, with that being said, do you guys have any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience as to what it is about this drama that makes it is there something else that we have not covered that happened in the last 4 episodes or throughout the entire drama that maybe we didn't touch on that you guys want to talk about to, put a final button on while you were sleeping?
And now for some quick K3 K-drama coffee break business.
That's right. We love sharing our K-drama thoughts with you, our community of K-drama lovers. And we have a few ways that you can support us. You can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/the-K3. And by becoming a member, you will get a calendar with weekly updates and also Jen's blog filled with her K-drama thoughts. You can also find us on YouTube. If you go into our archive, we have years of K-dramas to recommend for you. And talk to us there as well on our community tab. We also have a discount for a VPN service. So if you are dying to get your K-dramas that are airing only on Disney Plus in Asia, you can use our VPN. It keeps your devices safe. Just look for the code in the description below.
It was really interesting. Again, on the note of making it to the end of a drama, I do find myself sometimes with dramas if I'm not like completely locked into the romance or I'm like completely locked into whatever the storyline, usually by episode 15 it's kind of like wrapped up, and then episode 16 is kind of like a chance for us to see again like what the future is going to hold for our main couple, wrap up any loose ends that we might not have gotten to see before. But I thought it was really interesting that episode 16 kind of wrapped up with this whole sequence where we see kind of like all of our characters and how they fit into each other's lives. Like right before we get to the marriage, we see like the mom run into the friend, and then the friend runs into the high school girlfriend, and the high school girlfriend is at the wedding. And like it felt like a nice kind of bookend to the whole theme that you kind of see with this whole show of like how we're all connected and all of our choices affect each other and how we can change things or can't change things. And that it was just like a nice, lovely little end cap to, I think, the whole story, which I might have skipped if I wasn't locked into the thing. But it was nice. It was lovely.
That kind of pay it forward montage that they did, I was a little confused at first. I thought we were I was a little hazy, but then I realized what they were doing, and I'm like, oh, that's lovely. That's a lovely way to kind of do what you exactly said, where everybody is connected, and everybody, what you do for someone else will hopefully maybe pay it forward to somebody else and it kind of cascades. And that seems to have been the theme of the show. And I thought it was a beautiful way to show that. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
Yeah. And then my last little thing was I love that they had him find the mother's like scorecard for our two male leads. I'm happy we had that moment because that could have been just something
Jung Hae In won.
Yes, he did.
Oh,
He
right.
did.
Yeah.
And all of the second lead syndrome people who were crying about that were like, ah! Were you upset, Caitlin?
I was upset.
But Suzy picked his apple. She picked him.
She picked his apple. That sounds delicious. And Caitlin, what about you? Any final like little things that we didn't cover or that you really, we've already kind of mentioned it was a 10 originally. Like, was there any moment that we didn't cover that maybe made it a 10 for you when you first watched it or stayed a 10 for you as you've completed this rewatch?
I think I think a thing we pointed out in this is I think I was watching this with rose-colored glasses because it really was one of the first I watched after getting out of Peace Corps, after not watching for like 2.5 years. So I remember on my first watch, I loved the lawyer. What's his name? The evil lawyer, the villain.
Oh, Lee Sang-yo.
Yeah, I loved him in my first watch. And I still liked him. He was maniacal. But I do agree, Jen. I wish he was more over the top and more maniacal. Like, I haven't seen it, but your description of the lawyer, the villain in Justice, I wish that would have been him. Still need to watch Justice. But still,
you totally need to watch Justice.
I know. But I remember loving his character in my first watch, and I still liked him in this watch. I think this is still one of my favorite roles he ever did. Because it's so different from anything that I'd ever seen him do before this as well as after. I don't think I've ever seen him do another villain role if I can racking my brain about it. And I think this was also my introduction. Did I watch Strong Woman before or after this? I can't remember. Either way, Kim Won-hae.
Oh, Kim Won-hae.
Kim Won-hae, right?
Yeah. I can't remember when Strong Woman came out. Well, either way, I was going to say, I think this is still one of my favorite Kim Won-hae roles because I think my only other role I'd seen him in was Strong Woman. And I can't remember if I did before or after it, but it's just like, as you were saying, Jen, earlier, like he was so dramatic and over the top in Strong Woman. And then he came to this role. And I loved the relationship between him and our main dude and like how he took on the father figure. We didn't know why at first, but I did love their relationship throughout the drama as well.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Oh my God, you guys, this was so much fun. I mean, a little bit painful for me, obviously, because I was like, what is happening? I need to know. We will never do another one of these where I don't know everything. But thank you again so much for joining me on this journey, both Michaela and Caitlin. Thank you, everyone out there who listened to me struggle through these last 16 episodes trying to figure out what Michaela and Caitlin knew all along. And we are definitely working on another one. So I hope you enjoy this during the holiday season. And we will be back in 2024 with a new rewatch. I'm not really sure which one it's going to be yet, but keep an eye on all of our socials out there and we will let you know what we're going to add to the rewatch playlist soon. So until next time, I am Jenn from the K3. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's say goodbye to Michaela and Caitlin and find out where we can find them as well.
Yes, everybody, I am Michaela from the K-Pop Cast, your K-pop podcast, bringing you the best sounds and ideas in K-pop, semi-weekly. You know, we try to put stuff out every now and then. But like I've said, every episode, we also talk about K-dramas. We talked about JONG HAE IN's drama DP, if you want to go check that out. And all of our links to all of our things are in every description of each episode.
Excellent. And Caitlin, where can everybody find you?
I'm Caitlin. Thank you for having me and talking about this show as well. No Sleep 4, number 4 dramas. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and it's also the name of my blog. I have multiple things I write about on my blog all the time. That's where you can find me.
Thank you guys once again. And if you are new to the K3, we have years of reviews and recommendations for you on YouTube and here on the podcast. You can also subscribe to our newsletter that we've put out twice a week, which gives you casting updates, calendar updates, and news updates. So go ahead and check the links below, and we will see you guys next time. Have a fantastic, if you're listening to this before the new year, have a fantastic holiday and a happy new year. We'll see you in 2024. Bye.
Bye, everybody.